Samat Sadguru Sai Maharaj Ki Jai. Chapter 2. Object of writing the work, incapacity and boldness in the undertaking, hot discussion, conferring significant and prophetic title of Himadband, necessity of a guru. In the last chapter, the author mentioned in the original Marathi book that he would state the reason that led him to undertake the work and the person qualified to read the same, and such other points. Now, in this chapter, he starts to tell the same. Object of writing the work. In the first chapter, I described Sai Baba's miracle of checking and destroying the epidemic of cholera by grinding wheat and throwing the flour on the outskirts of the village. I heard other miracles of Sai Baba to my great delight, and this delight burst forth into this poetic work. I also thought that the description of these grand miracles of Sai Baba would be interesting and instructive to his devotees, and would remove their sins, and so I began to write the sacred life and teachings of Sai Baba. The life of the saint is neither logical nor dialectical. It shows us the true and great path. Incapacity and boldness in undertaking the work. Himat Pant thought that he was not a fit person to undertake the work. He said, I do not know the life of my intimate friend, nor do I know my own mind, then how can I write the life of a saint or describe the nature of incarnations which even Vedas were unable to do? One must be a saint himself before he could know other saints. Then how can I describe their glory? To write the life of a saint is the most difficult, though one may as well measure the depth of the water of the seven seas or enclose the sky with cloth trappings. I knew that this was the most venturous undertaking which might expose me to ridicule. I therefore invoked Sai Baba's grace. The premier poet saint of Maharashtra, Sri Gyaneshwar Maharaj, has stated that the Lord loves those who write the lives of saints, and the saints also have a peculiar method of their own of getting the service which the devotees long for, successfully accomplished. The saints inspire the work. The devotees become only an indirect cause or instrument to achieve the end. For instance, in 1700 Shak year, the poet Mahipati aspired to write the lives of saints. Saints inspired him and got the work done. So also in 1800 Shak year, Dasganu's service was accepted. The former wrote 4 works, Bhakt Vijay, Sant Vijay, Bhakt Leelamrit and Sant Kantamrit, while the latter wrote 2, Bhakt Leelamrit and Sant Katamrit, in which the lives of modern saints were described. In chapters 31, 32, 33 of Bhakt Leelamrit and in chapter 57 of Sant Katamrit, the sweet life and teachings of Sai Baba are very well depicted. These have been separately published in Sai Leela magazine, number 11, 12, volume 17. The readers are advised to read these chapters. So also Sai Baba's wonderful Leelas are described in a small decent book named Sri Sainath Bhajanmala by Mrs. Savitri Bai Raghunath Tendulkar of Bandra. Dasganu Maharaj also has composed various sweet poems on Sai Baba. A devotee named Amidas Bhavani Mehta has also published some stories of Sri Sai Baba in Gujarati. Some numbers of Sainath Prabha, a magazine published by Dakshin Bhiksha Sansthan of Shirdi, are also published. Then the question of objection comes in, that while so many works regarding Sai Baba are extant, why should this be written, and where is its necessity? The answer is plain and simple. The life of Sai Baba is as wide and deep as the infinite ocean, and all can dive deep into the same and take out the precious gems of knowledge and bhakti and distribute them to aspiring public. The stories, parables, teachings of Sai Baba are very wonderful. They will give peace and happiness to the people who are afflicted with sorrows and heavily loaded with miseries of this worldly existence, and also bestow knowledge and wisdom both in the worldly and in spiritual domains. If these teachings of Sai Baba, which are as interesting and instructive as the Vedas lore, are listened to and meditated upon, the devotees will get what they long for, that is, union with Brahman, mastery in eightfold yoga, bliss of meditation, etc. So I thought that I should call these stories together. That would be my best upasana. This collection would be most delightful to those simple souls whose eyes were not blessed with Sai Baba's darshan. So I set about collecting Sai Baba's teachings and expressions the outcome of his boundless and natural self realization. It was Sai Baba who inspired me in this matter. In fact, I surrendered my ego at his feet and thought that my path was clear and that he would make me quite happy here and in the next world. I could not myself ask Sai Baba to give me permission for this work, so I requested Mr. Madhav Rao Deshpande, alias Shama, Baba's most intimate devotee, to speak to him for me. He pleaded for my cause and said to Sai Baba, "This Anna Sahib wishes to write your biography. Don't say that you're a poor begging fakir and there is no necessity to write it. But if you agree and help him, he will write, or rather your feet will accomplish the work. Without your consent and blessing, nothing can be done successfully." When Sai Baba heard this request, he was moved and blessed me by giving me his udi and placing his boon bestowing hand on my head and said, "Let him take a collection of stories and experiences. Keep notes and memos. I will help him. He is only an outward instrument. I should write myself, my autobiography, and satisfy the wishes of my devotees. He should get rid of his ego, place or surrender it at my feet. He who acts like this in life, him I help the most. What of my life stories? I serve him in his house in all possible ways. When his ego is completely annihilated and there is left no trace of it, I myself shall enter into him and shall myself write my own life. Hearing my stories and teachings will create faith in devotees' heart, and they will easily get self-realization and bliss. Let there be no insistence on establishing one's own view, no attempt to refute others' opinions, no discussions of pros and cons of any subject. The word discussion put me in mind of my promise to explain the story of my getting the title of Himat Pant, and now I began to relate the same. I was on close friendly terms with Kaka Sahib Dikshit and Nana Sahib Chandorkar. They pressed me to go to Shirdi and have Baba's darshan, and I promised them to do so. But something in the interval turned up which prevented me from going to Shirdi. The son of a friend of mine at Nulavla fell ill. My friend tried all possible means, physical and spiritual, but the fever would not abate. At length he got his guru to sit by the bedside of his son, but this too was of no avail. Hearing this, I thought, what was the utility of the guru if he could not save my friend's son? If the guru can't do anything for us, why should I go to Shirdi at all? Thinking in this way, I postponed my Shirdi trip. But the inevitable must happen, and it happened in my case as follows. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who was a plant officer, was going on tour to Basain. From Thana he came to Dadar and was waiting for a train bound for Basain. In the meanwhile, a Bandra local turned up. He sat in it and came to Bandra, and sent for me and took me to task for putting off my Shirdi trip. Nana's argument for my Shirdi trip was convincing and delightful, and so I decided to start for Shirdi the same night. I packed up my luggage and started for Shirdi. I planned to go to Dadar and there to catch the train for Manmad. And so I booked myself for Dadar and sat in the train. While the train was to start, a Mamdan came and hastily to my compartment, and seeing all my paraphernalia, asked me where I was bound. I told him my plan. He then suggested that I should go straight to Boribandar and not get down at Dadar, for the Manmad mail did not get down at Dadar at all. If this little miracle or Leela had not happened, I would not have reached Shirdi next day as settled. And many doubts would have assailed me. But that was not to be. As fortune favored me, I reached Shirdi the next day before 9 or 10 a.m. Mr. Bhau Sahib Dikshit was waiting for me there. This was in 1910 AD, when there was only one place, that is Sateswada, for lodging pilgrim devotees. After alighting from the Tonga, I was anxious to have darshan, when the great devotee Tatya Sahib Nulkar returned from masjid and said Sai Baba was at the corner of Vada, and that I should first get the preliminary darshan and then after bath see him at leisure. Hearing this, I ran and prostrated before Baba, and then my joy knew no bounds. I found more than what Nana Chandorkar had told me. All my senses were satisfied, and I forgot thirst and hunger. The moment I touched Sai Baba's feet, I began a new lease of life. I felt myself much delighted, much obliged to those who spurred and helped me get the darshan, and I considered themselves as my real relatives, and I cannot repay their debt. I only remember them and prostrate mentally before them. The peculiarity of Sai Baba's darshan, as I found it, is that by his darshan, our thoughts are changed, the force of previous action is abated, and gradually all attachment of this passion towards worldly object grew up. It is by the merit of actions in many past births that such darshan is got. And if only you see Sai Baba, really all the world become or assumes the form of Sai Baba. On the first day of my arrival in Shirdi, there was a discussion between me and Bala Sahib Bhate regarding the necessity of a guru. I contended, why should we lose our freedom and submit to others? When we have to do our duty, why is a guru necessary? One must try his best and save himself. What can the guru do to a man who does nothing but sleep indolently? Thus I pleaded free will, while Mr. Bhate took up the other side, that is destiny, and said, whatever is bound to happen must happen. Even your cleverness, pride, or egoism won't help you. The discussion, with all its pros and cons, went on for an hour or so, and as usual, no decision was arrived at. We had to stop the discussion ultimately, as we were exhausted. The net result of this was that I lost my peace of mind and found that unless there is a strong body consciousness and egoism, there would be no discussion. In other words, it is egoism which breeds discussion. Then, when we went to masjid with others, Baba asked Kaka Sahib Dikshit the following: what was going on in Satewada? What was the discussion about? And staring at me, Baba further added, what did this Himad Pant say? Hearing these words, I was much surprised. The masjid was at a considerable distance from Satewada, where I was staying, and where the discussion was going on. How could Baba know our discussion unless he be omniscient and inner ruler of us all? Significant and prophetic title. I began to think why Sai Baba should call me the name Himad Pant. This word is a corrupt form of Himadri Pant. This Himadri Pant was a well-known minister of kings Mahadev and Ramdev of Devgiri of the Yadav dynasty. He was very learned, good-natured, and author of good works such as Chatuvarga Chintamani, dealing with spiritual subjects, and Rajparasti. He invented this and started new methods of accounts, and was the originator of Modi Marathi shorthand script. But I was quite the opposite, an ignoramus and having dull, mediocre intellect. So I could not understand why the name of or title was conferred upon me. But thinking seriously about it, I thought that the title was a dart to destroy my ego, so that I should always remember meek and humble. It was also a compliment paid to me for the cleverness in this discussion. Looking to the future history, we think that Baba's word calling Mr. Dabolkar by the name Himad Pant was significant and prophetic, as we find that he looked after the management of Sri Sai Sansthan very intelligently, kept nicely all the accounts, and was also the author of such a good work, Sai Satcharitra, which deals with such important and spiritual objects as Gyan, Bhakti, dispassion, self-surrender, and self-realization. About the necessity of a guru. Himad Pant has left no note, no memo about what Baba has said regarding the subject, but Kaka Sahib Dikshit has published his notes regarding this matter. Next day after Himad Pant's meeting with Sai Baba, Kaka Sahib went to Baba and asked whether he should leave Shirdi. Baba said yes. Then someone asked, Baba, where to go? Baba said, high up. Then the man said, how is the way? Baba said, there are many ways leading there. There's one way from here, Shirdi. The way is difficult. There are tigers and wolves in the jungles on the way. Kaka Sahib asked, but Baba, what if we take a guide with us? Baba answered, then there's no difficulty. The guide will take you straight to your destination, avoiding wolves, tigers, and ditches, etc. on the way. If there be no guide, there is the danger of your being lost in the jungles or falling into ditches. Mr. Dabolkar was present on this occasion, and he thought that this was the answer Baba gave to the question whether Guru was a necessity. White Sai Leela, Volume 1, Number 5, page 47. And he thereupon took the hint that no discussion of the problem whether man is free or bound is of any use in the spiritual matters, but that on the contrary, real Paramarth is possible only as the result of the teaching of the Guru,